heard what the Chief of Defense Staff said there. It means a lot. I'll get some perspective, but let me bring in an expert here before I bring in my studio guest. I'm being joined by an expert in violent extremism and a scholar, a lawyer, Dr. Bulama Bukharti, who is live to dissect this thread, the response, and what must change urgently. Thank you so much, Mr. Bukharti, for joining us tonight on the program.
Thank you, Sean.
You heard what the Chief of Defense Staff has said. He said the people of Borno and Yobe know these insurgents. What does that mean?
It is true. Most Boko Haram fighters, especially those operating in the northeast, are from Borno or Yobe state, or you could say they are mostly from northeastern Nigeria. But I think it is inaccurate to say you know them and therefore you are responsible for what is happening. We know that these people started from our own communities. They then moved to the bush. They declared everyone an enemy who did not join them, and therefore they are killing people in our communities. And I think while it is true for the Chief of Defense Staff to say, you know this environment better, you know this crisis better, you know this group better, help us with intelligence, that's a good ask, that's a legitimate ask. But to tell people that you know them in a way of blaming them, I think is incorrect and shouldn't have been done.
But one, it does look like he's asking them to join in the fight. And he said they need to own the war, meaning that local intelligence is being sought after here. Is it a failure of leadership also? Because if it's a case that, I mean, for someone also who had reported the war front in Yobe, Adamawa and Borno State years ago, I do know that, I mean, I've had family members who have told me that one of my sons, I mean, this what someone had told me right in the heart of Maiduguri in the very moment of the times that this war really got to a head in Nigeria. And I had someone who told me that one of his sons actually came back home after been missing for about 6 weeks. And the guy came home and literally went into the house, slaughtered the father, slaughtered the mother, slaughtered the one or two of his siblings, and carried a few things and disappeared again. This is the kind of war that we are experiencing. But if the CDS is now saying that the people need to own the war, is it a failure of leadership to say local intelligence and those who are leading the people have failed in some ways?
Yeah, you see, Sean, as I said, I think it is a legitimate ask for the Chief of Defense Staff to ask people to cooperate with them and to help them and to support them with intelligence. Human intelligence from local communities is critical in fighting terrorism. But I can tell you local communities in Borno and Yobe have been doing that for years. They have been volunteering information. They have been cooperating in every single way they can. But where people are coming from the bush, areas where civilians are not even able to access, then it is very difficult for people to know that a particular attack is being planned and for them to flag it to the military. And to be honest, there is supposed to be very many military formations, military camps and bases across the bushes where Boko Haram and ISWAP are operating. And I think the military in many cases will know better when an attack is being organized, and the use of technology should make it easier for them to spot potential threats and to clamp down on them. But also, Sean, we need to understand that many local communities are between between a rock and the deep blue sea, because many parts of rural Borno are essentially under the control of either Boko Haram or ISWAP. And there are people in some of those places who are farming, who are accessing the rivers to fish and all that. And for them, Boko Haram pounces and kills them whenever they volunteer information to the security forces. Let me give you one example. There was an attack in my own state, Yobe State, in Mafa village of one of our local governments last year, where around 120 people were killed. What happened was this village volunteered information to the military. And then Boko Haram sent them a letter saying, you have given information about us to the military and we are going to attack you. We are giving you 7 days to move from this village, leave the village, empty the village. They reported to the military that we are being threatened by the group on which we gave you information. It took the military, after 7 days, they were attacked by Boko Haram. 126 people were killed and no military was deployed there to go and protect them. So in that kind of situation, it is difficult to convince some of these communities to volunteer information. If you want communities to cooperate, and I reiterate the CDF's call that communities must give information, must deliver intel to the security forces. But the only way you can convince those in rural areas to do that is to fully protect them. If you allow them to be killed after Boko Haram, after they have new information about Boko Haram, then it will be difficult for other communities to cooperate by giving intel.
And you see, Malam Fatori, the people living in and around that area will tell you what they experienced and what they faced. 4 hours of attack non-stop, and some of these terrorists were operating. And you look at Malam Fatori, and I'm making an example of Malam Fatori, for example. And over the years, this community sits as a regional headquarters, and you know just how sensitive this community is, what the people of that community are faced. And you look at the experience they faced in this last attack, and you also look at some of the successes the military has had over the years. But you are a son of the soil. You are from Yobe, for example. You know what exactly is happening. The new initiative by some of these terrorists, they are more audacious than we have seen before. They were ragtag, they were attacking and pulling back. But it does look like the audacity is taking them further. They are showing some new nature. New identity is emerging and forming in these guys. Should we be afraid of new tendency that this guy, and we know that ISWAP is also adopting new technologies in their attack. What have you discovered in their tendencies now that we need to pay attention to?
Sean, what we are witnessing over the past few months is a dangerous evolution in the Boko Haram crisis. It is not just an escalation, it is an evolution. It is a new method of warfare that Boko Haram has started introducing over the past few months. And so the group is moving from what we know to be a guerrilla group, from their guerrilla warfare, into a highly organized, semi-conventional warfare tactic. And I say this because of 3 reasons. Number one, over the past 3 months, Cheun, you at channels and many media houses have run stories of how Boko Haram and ISWAP are attacking military formations and overrunning them and stealing their weapons and supplies. That's number one. Number two, Boko Haram has now started re-infiltrating Maiduguri city. Over the past few years, we have seen we have not recorded major attacks inside Maiduguri, but in December, just before Christmas, you reported how a mosque was attacked and at least 5 people were killed. Now we have this attack in which about 26 people were killed. Before that, we have seen road bombings inside Maiduguri, and therefore Boko Haram has regained the capacity to infiltrate cities like Maiduguri, and that is very dangerous because previously, when we started to see those attacks inside Maiduguri, then we started to see them inside Damaturu, and then they spread to Jos, they spread to Kano, they spread to Kaduna, they spread to Abuja, and that is the nature of attack that is now coming back to Maiduguri, and it is a dangerous escalation. Number 3, we are also seeing Boko Haram continuing to use drones, armed drones, and advanced technology. And therefore, Boko Haram is moving from that phase of guerrilla warfare towards something that is more akin to semi-conventional warfare. And I think that tells us volumes about the confidence of the group. It also tells us that the group now thinks they have regained the initiative and they have developed the capacity and the operational momentum to attack our military bases, to attack our cities, and also to use advanced technology. And I think we have to do something very fast in order to stem this new tide.
Yeah. There are those who applaud the decision of Commander-in-Chief, and President Bola Tinubu made that, and past President Muhammadu Buhari has also made that direction. But there are those who are tactical in their thinking, who say, look, those are merely political. If you understand the strategies of warfare and the hierarchy in the military, it's just merely political. You do not have to send the service chiefs right in the middle of the war to be able to, because the command and control in the army or in the military globally does not have to bring your control and command and control right in the theater of war. That is not how it operates. Yeah, but for political reasons and the optics of it, the commander-in-chief, when he makes those decisions, it makes him look and sound tough. But in the practical and in the operational, real sense of it, that it doesn't work. For example, Africa does not have its command and control on the soil of Africa. It's far away in Germany. In some of the Middle East, control of the operations of the United States is in Germany, and the rest of it you do not have to, it's in Tampa, Florida. So you do not have to have your operational control or your tactical control, or your to be in the theater of war. But what do you make of that decision? We've seen the service chiefs gone on the ground. We've seen this happen in the past. But have they really given us the result that we want, saving lives?
You see, I support President Tinubu's decision to send the service chiefs to the ground. And I think it is going to make a real change if the service chiefs remain on the ground for some time. It may be symbolic in the first place, but I think the first thing we need to recognize is that President Tinubu sending the service chiefs to the ground indicates that the government takes this matter seriously, and they look at it as an urgent matter or an urgent situation that is also deteriorating. In the past year, when we have seen attacks that have happened, horrific attacks, and then our president is in another country celebrating his birthday. And now if we have a president sending the service chiefs to the ground, I think it is a good thing that we should all support. Secondly, I do not agree with the argument that the service chiefs are a political appointment. The political appointment is the Minister of Defense. But the service chiefs are the overall commanders of these operations. And what is happening right now, or what is happening before the order President Tinubu gave, was that they are managing the situation on the ground remotely from Abuja. So what they are doing is a remote management or remote control of the commanders on the ground in Maiduguri or in Zamfara or other states.
So, I mean,
command and control,
yeah.
You will have, yes, go ahead.
So my concern here is whether or not in the past, when we have adopted this model of saying service chiefs go on the ground, as it worked, operational wise, and I have quite a lot of ears and eyes with those who are really in the theater of command, who say, look, it doesn't work. Strategy in military operation doesn't mean that you have those who are really in control. You sit, the chief, the CNC in America, sit and control the warfare far away from him in Russia, in Iran, and doesn't have to be on the ground. The command and control doesn't have to be on the ground. Did he work with Buhari? And there are those who say, politically speaking, some of these attacks was targeted at Bola Tinubu's trip to the UK. But I'm very glad with what the military have done. Guess what they did yesterday or today? 60 terrorists, including some of their commanders, were hit. This came after 23 people were killed and 180 were injured. It shows that the military were angry and they were beaten and they went after these guys. It means that we could do something. But the question is whether or not sending service chiefs on the ground, has it ever worked? Will it work now?
So, Sean, to your question whether it will work or why it didn't work under President Buhari. Under President Buhari, orders were given several times, but many times it never happened. So President Buhari will say relocate and they would not relocate. But in this case, he said move, and they have moved to Maiduguri already. But I will give you 5 reasons why I think it is important. Number one, Sheun, many of the service chiefs in Abuja and the politicians in Abuja are detached from the situation on the ground. Our soldiers, gallant men and women, are dying on the ground. They do not have enough weapons. They do not have basic kits. Their situation is very difficult on the ground. And when the service chiefs visit, they will come back to reality. They will see what is actually happening on the ground. Number two, their presence is going to boost the morale of the officers on the ground, of the soldiers on the ground, because they will see their leadership present. Number three, like I said, it will move command and control to the theater of war, and therefore it will make it faster for them to take decisions, operational decisions, and to deploy troops and resources more easily. Number four, because the service chiefs are on the ground, they will be able to observe things and there are men that may not be going right, and therefore they would be able to fix things that may not be working as well as they should. And finally, it will allow the different forces in the Nigerian security architecture to coordinate and work together. Because as it is now, we know that coordination and control is very difficult because they are working in silos in many of the cases. But if you have all of them on the ground, then it is easier for them to coordinate, to work together. And for all of these reasons, I think it is a good thing that the service chiefs have moved. I hope they would be able to take real steps on the ground to get a grip of this situation. Boko Haram is evolving to a very, very dangerous phase. They are moving from a guerrilla warfare tactics to more semi-conventional war, and we need to do something about it.
Just before I allow you go quickly, Mr. Bulama Bukharti, just like what you're saying, what has happened in the commanders that have been neutralized by the, and I said kudos to those gallant men, and I was mentioning Malam Fatori's situation. If you see what is happening, the dimension in which you mentioned, see what has gone wrong. The Joint Task Force, Operation Edin Kai, you know what they did in Malam Fatori? It was the fact that they attacked some of these, and what the nature and the manner in which these guys wanted to operate. The joint ISWAP and Boko Haram terrorists, they were going with drones, sophisticated weapons. And you know what the terrorists were doing? They were advancing in large numbers on foot and deployed armed drones in a desperate bid to breach the defenses of troops at the 68th Battalion location, which rhymes with what you're saying, that their target is military formation and to neutralize military formation. But well, they met their end. You know what happened? We saw some of their commanders that have been killed according to the military, and I said kudos to them. Nigerians are behind, and we want to see a result. We're saying that enough of the killings of Nigerian soldiers and our officers on the ground. But Nigerians are behind you. We're giving you psychological support to win this war. But before you go, Mr. Bukharti, give us an understanding in winning this war. And what has become like a resurgence in the northeast region of the country, because we thought we were battling the bandits in north central and northwest region of the country. But now with what we're seeing, what do you think needs to happen urgently beyond a temporary measure of relocating the service chiefs to the theater of war?
No, I mean, Sheon, let me also reiterate your praise for our Nigerian, for the military. They are our national heroes. We support them 100%. We pray for them, and we continue to help them in ways we can with our expertise to win the war against these terrorists. They are fighting a very difficult warfare, and to be honest, the situation on the ground, the insecurity in Nigeria is much worse than many people are. I've always said the key to fighting and succeeding against Boko Haram and the bandits is to take the fight to them inside the bushes. What we saw from Buhari's administration until recently was keeping our soldiers in what we call super camps and allowing Boko Haram and ISWAP complete freedom of movement and maneuver inside the rural areas of Nigeria. And that then allows them to sit down, properly plan attack, load them, and to launch them. And so, therefore, the best way to defeat them is to take the fight into their camps, not wait for them to attack and then we defend. It is for us to attack them because the best defense is to attack. Recently, the Nigerian army has started invading the Timbuktu Triangle, which is one of the key areas where Boko Haram is hiding. But we need to take it further. I commend them for penetrating the Timbuktu Triangle and for fighting Boko Haram inside the Timbuktu Triangle. But we need to take it further into other parts of the Zambiza forest and into the Lake Chad region. I can tell you, Sheun, that Boko Haram has courts, they have prisons, they have markets, they have villages where they control, they have large farms where they produce their food, and they have large bodies of water where they control right now. And until and unless we take the fight to them inside where they are hiding, where they have established their own state within our own country, then we will continue to defend, and defending is never a good tactic. And to do that, Sheun, we need our ground troops. What we have been doing over the past few years is sending the Air Force to rain bombs on them. And Boko Haram mastered the skill of evading air attacks, air strikes. And therefore, the best way is to invade them with ground troops, supported by our air troops as well as the Navy, and to take the fight to them for months, and for us to never come out of the jungle until and unless we have degraded them permanently. And in order to succeed in that, the second thing to do is to re-strengthen our multinational joint task force cooperation with Niger, Cameroon, Chad, and Benin Republic, countries that supported us. The troops that have succeeded best in the fight against Boko Haram are the multinational joint task force. And that task force has weakened. I think we need to re-strengthen that. And finally, Sheun, we need to start bringing some of the security measures into our cities. Previously, the Nigerian army worked with the Civilian Joint Task Force, JTF, CJTF, in order to secure cities like Borno, like Maiduguri and Yobe. That's Damatru. And we need to bring back some of those measures to make it impossible for Boko Haram to penetrate our cities and launch the kinds of attacks we saw recently.
Dr. Bulama Bukharti is an expert in violent extremism and understanding the nature of terrorists as operating in Nigeria's northeast region. But thank you so much indeed, as always, for your time.
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Opposition ADC is warning that President Bola Tinubu and the APC should start packing their luggages from the Aso Rock Villa as they are ready to defeat them in the 2027 elections. One of them will be speaking with me tonight. Kenneth Okonkwo says his party's manifesto is ready. It means that the ideology is ready to uproot APC from its prominence at the center. And that's our discussion after this break, everyone. Join us again.